In Kenya recently, there has been protest, the Gen Z protest, and people are speaking about it everywhere. And the hashtag everywhere in social media, on X, on Facebook, and all social media handles is Ruto must go. And what about it? Is it really possible? And we want to think about it with the coach today, and he's going to take us through under what circumstances can such a case be true. Welcome, coach.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is the Sarmabo Productions, and the topic, and I want you to elaborate to our audience that the need of the Gen Zs and the millennials, so maybe what Kenyans are speaking about today, is it really true? Is it possible? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very possible for a president to go home. Constitutionally, first of all, if you look at the constitution, things that might make the president go home, one, if he dies. So in other words, that office would remain vacant if the president dies. If the president resigns. Yeah? So with what the Gen Zs are pushing for, the Gen Zs want the president to resign. Yes?
Yeah.
If whatever they are saying, Ruto must go, that means he resigns. So if the president resigns, then he resigns and pens a letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly. Yeah. Another thing that might make the office of the president vacant is if the president is not capable of performing his duties because of his health. Maybe because of mind, he has mental issues, or just his health cannot allow him to perform day-to-day duties. Yes. So it's possible. If they push and he decides to resign, then it's possible.
Okay, you're saying it is possible. We know the president of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto, a very stiff gentleman, and we can say he has a mental health issue that maybe can force him to resign, maybe a health situation. And again, merely with who he is and somebody who, maybe if somebody is in power, you cannot just give away your power that way. And Gen Zs are really pushing that he has to go, whether the constitutional way or maybe the unconstitutional way. Do you really think maybe the steps the Gen Zs are taking by mobilizing, getting to the streets and protesting and shouting everywhere, talking in social media, is it really the right direction?
Okay, first of all, let us look at what does the Constitution say?
Okay.
What are the constitutional processes to have the president out of office? One of the ways is a member of the National Assembly, in support of a quarter of all the members of the National Assembly, can move a motion to have the president out of office in regards to his health condition, citing that he is incapable of performing his duties. So if this comes to the House of the National Assembly, that is, then they will discuss it. If the majority of the members of the National Assembly vote in favor of this motion, then the Speaker of the National Assembly writes to the Chief Justice of Kenya, the Chief Justice, within 2 days after the day when the National Assembly had the voting. Then the Chief Justice, in reception of this letter, she then forms a tribunal within 7 days. This tribunal consists of 3 medical practitioners who are nominated by a body that regulates or makes sure that that regulates the medical processes within the country. This body would also consist of one advocate of the High Court who would also be nominated by the responsible body, and then one person who represents the family. So this person would automatically be presented by the president himself, or if the president is not in the capacity to do that, then the immediate family will do that. If they are not willing to, then a close relative of the president will do that. Then this tribunal would then investigate or now go through the whole process, looking at all the allegations that were before the National Assembly. Then this will then come back. The tribunal will report back to the Chief Justice and the Speaker of the National Assembly. The report of the tribunal is final. So if they find that the allegations were not correct, then the Speaker will only table this to the Parliament, and he will tell the parliamentarians that this is the case, and that case will end at that point. But if the tribunal finds out that there is a problem with the president, he's not capable, his health does not allow, then the National Assembly will then vote. So if the majority votes to uphold the report of the tribunal, then at that point, the office of the president remains vacant. Yeah, the president, the current president now, cedes to be the president. The second option, or the second way that...
Before you get to the second way, you know, the Gen Z watching us right now is really zealous, because they really want the president out. Like they need to get to another election or maybe to the way forward. They're saying everything they have to do it, whether it happens, whether it is possible or not. So they want to move within possibilities. When you look at the current situation, for example, that mental health or maybe health issue that you're speaking about, is there really a possibility that that can be an option with the current situation?
I haven't heard of anybody in the public claiming that our president has a problem with his health. That and this health issue makes him incapable of performing his duties. But now I've heard people talk of what I'm going to next, the process I'm going to next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, you've not heard anyway. It's not a must that maybe you've heard. Perhaps somebody somewhere has the information. Because maybe somebody can collect all the necessary information and get to Parliament. And number one, the situation in Parliament, can it really work for us? Like we are thinking about 2/3 of them that are currently in Parliament, that they table such a motion and they make it work.
Okay, if at all one feels that the president has a health issue, which the parliamentarians maybe have not seen, then you have, because remember, the parliamentarians are there representing the electorate. The May that the one guy was speaking about some time back. So then you have the obligation, you can walk to your parliamentarian's office and present this to him, and then looking at it, he can also go and seek for a quota of the support of a quota of the total members within the National Assembly and move this motion. If at all the parliamentarian or the audience out there or the citizens feel that the president has violated the constitution, the laws, the constitution of Kenya, or the national laws or the international laws, or the president has committed any crime within the national laws or the international laws, then this is now the process again. It needs a third. One member of parliament in support of a third of the national members, the National Assembly members, moves a motion to impeach the president. So if they move this motion, then the parliamentarians debate about it, and then they vote to impeach him. And 2/3 of the total number of the parliamentarians vote to impeach the president. The Speaker of the National Assembly will then write to the Speaker of the Senate. The Speaker of the Senate, that happens within 2 days. The Speaker of the Senate, in reception of the letter from the National Assembly, will table this to the Senate. So during the deliberations, the Senate may decide to form a special committee consisting of 11 members. These 11 members are members of the Senate to investigate this matter. So gross misconduct, gross violation of human rights, gross violation of constitution, crime against the national laws or international laws, then these people vote, it is now the Senate. So there's 11 committee members now go out there to investigate these allegations. At this point, the president has a right to appear before this committee or even be represented so that his side of the story is also heard. Again, the report from the committee is final. It cannot be appealed. The same way, the report from the tribunal, which was formed by the Chief Justice, was also final. So if the committee finds that the president actually, whatever came from the National Assembly is right, then the Senate will vote. If they find that the allegations or whatever came from the National Assembly is not true, then that case dies at that point. If it is true, then the senators vote. And if 2/3 of the senators, the total number of the senators vote in support or they uphold the report, then the president is impeached.
Okay.
So that means the office of the president remains vacant.
And how possible is that for our situation? Because you remember, like in our parliament itself, it is very corrupt. We know what is happening there. They can just merely be bribed and maybe just cut such bills when they are brought on board. Yeah. So when they start such a conversation, like it cannot work. Or do you think there is a way in which such can be triggered? Because there are so many things persons are speaking about that have been violated by the president. We see extrajudicial killings. So can all this data be collected and the process go and the process follow?
Okay, in my own thinking, I would really, first of all, wish to see this happen through maybe the process of the National Assembly, though we know people call them MPs because most of them they are just a stamping authority to what the president wants. So if this cannot happen, remember the Constitution says that all sovereign power remains with the people.
Yeah.
So then we can now remove the may part of it, where we've given the parliamentarians power to represent the public. Then now the public can take this and use the word shall, which is in the Constitution, and then now do it with themselves and push for the president to resign.
Yeah.
So it is possible for the public to keep pushing and push and push until the president resigns.
Okay.
It is very possible.
You know the Gen Z wave right now, it is like something that has never happened before. It is a pandemic, yeah. People never knew that it will get to the situation that it is currently. For example, the MPs who, for example, voted yes for the so-called punitive finance bill, they regretted their action and some are coming back to the public to ask for forgiveness, for pardon that maybe they were deceived in one way or the other. What if a portion of maybe some integrated young men or women in the parliament push such a bill? Will it be like them that will refuse maybe to say yes to such a bill? Will they maybe face maybe the thing that happened before, maybe the situation that happened with them?
Of course, most likely, if you do anything that is against the will of the people, as they say it, they'll greet you. They'll automatically greet you, and their greetings are not very good. So it's possible that if such a process is taken to the National Assembly and it is the will of the people that it is taken there and that the president is out, and some MPs go against it, then automatically they'll face the wrath of the people. But then another question that we should ask ourselves is the country ready to face what comes with the resignation or the vacancy of the office of the president? Because what does the Constitution say? If the office of the president becomes vacant, what happens next? Today, we have office of the deputy president. So if the office of the president remains vacant, then the deputy president automatically takes over as the president.
Okay.
Yes, he becomes the president and serves for the remaining period until the term ends. So if today maybe Ruto resigns, Gachagua can take over and take the country all through to maybe 2027 when this period ends.
But before that, what's the case that maybe the impeachment, maybe the data, maybe the accusations, they also touched on the deputy president?
So if the deputy president is not in the position to take over as the president, then the speaker of the National Assembly, in this case we now have Moses Wetangula, then the speaker takes over for 60 days. So speaker takes over as the president for 60 days, but then an election is held within these 60 days.
Okay.
So the country would then have a new president who is elected within these 60 days. So if at all, between now and the period of the next election, if it is 2.5 years or more, then whoever takes over, whether it is the deputy president or whoever is elected when the the Speaker of the National Assembly takes over, whoever is elected, once he is sworn in, the period between the time he is sworn in and the period when the country should have an election constitutionally, if it is more than 2.5 years, then they are considered to have served a whole term. So they only have one term left if at all they want to again stand or run for presidency. But if the period is less than 2.5 years, then it is not considered as if they have had a whole term. So they still have 2 terms left if at all they want to run for presidency. Yeah.
So there can be a president in this our constitution who can go for 12.5 years.
12.5? Yes,
12
of course, you can go for the 10 years if at all you came into office and the period between the time you were sworn in and the period and the time the country was supposed to have the elections, as per the constitution, is less than 2.5 years. Then fine, you can then have, if the people love you and they vote for you for 10 years, then you can have your 10 years and add it to the maybe 1.5 or 2 years that you served.
You know, you've spoken about maybe two options, yeah. But people are like, even if that will work or not, like you want him out. What about the other option, the other way? Yeah.
Okay, one of the options also, which is now not constitutional anyway, if at all
the constitution also only has 2 ways.
the 2 ways,
Okay.
yes, of which you can push him to resignation.
What about death? Is it not included in the constitution?
I said it earlier,
Oh, yeah,
that
in
he
part
can
of-
either
okay,
die or resign or maybe face charges which are now within the process of now the legislature.
Okay.
But now, one out of the constitution, what we've seen in other countries, if at all the country now turns into something very bad that none of us would wish, then that is where now the military comes over.
You know, you're saying none of us would wish. Perhaps some wish it becomes the case. Like, for example, in the case of West African countries, we see persons like Ibrahim Traore, people are asking themselves, why don't we have one in Kenya, perhaps an Otieno from the military, or Wahome somewhere, or Kipchoge, yeah? They take over the government because maybe just somebody who can be loved by the people and embrace the need of the people and focus the nation into the right direction, focusing on
You
the
see,
coming generations, how we can
with the
bring
military,
change, yeah.
when the military takes over, the military rule is not a joke. So for them to come through, it means they've seen it is now not possible. Like, as a country or as the political class, it is now beyond our control. So they would take it over. That would be a coup anyway. When they take it over, they rule for, you now work with their terms, because there's no law that says they can rule for this period, or there's no law that allows them to do that.
So do you mean the constitution also recognizes that it can be a case, maybe it can be a situation that there can be a coup?
I've not seen that, but then if you attempt a coup, that is tantamount to treason.
Oh, the constitution is
So
just
that
gets to
yeah,
if you attempt
if
and
you
it
attempt
fails.
a
Yeah.
coup.
So then the
So
consequences.
that means the constitution is against a coup.
A coup.
So if you attempt a coup, then if you are arrested, it is tantamount to a treason. So you can be charged with treason
Then the
charges.
constitution is not open to our real-time maybe events what is happening.
Yeah, so you
currently.
see, if the military takes over, let me just take you through what we've seen in other countries and also what happens. One, in most cases, the military suspends the constitution.
Yeah.
So there's no constitution governing a country. Number two, you realize that they say, in most cases, the police are always civilians. They always barricade or blocks the borders. So there's nobody going out or nobody coming in.
And our prisoners also become free.
In most cases, they also release prisoners. In most cases. So, and then they rule for a period of their own wish.
Because there is no constitution
Yes,
now.
there's no constitution. Until they fail, it is such a time that we can now take this power back to the people. And then maybe they can now have people do elections. Like, they can, through their own will or wish, they can have a transitional body that then takes people through that process of election.
Kwash, I know you are a concerned citizen, you are a leader, youth leader, and also a visionary as well. We are looking on what's best for our nation, Kenya. Yeah, we see how things are happening right now. Things are messed up. We see the killings, maybe how governance is, it's very poor, the things are not working out the way they should be. Do you think the coup way can be a solution to our case, if in case the person who takes over the government is just a person of contrite mind? What do you think about it? As a person who thinks things should change and change for the better.
Personally, I won't really wish for a military rule.
Okay. Why?
Because
I think that a military rule, it's not that the civilians, maybe the citizens, will be on the losing end, or maybe the losing side of it, just if, in case things are done. And the person, it depends with the person who gets into power. I think that should be the case.
Okay, I leave that one to our audience. I would wish to see what they say. We'd wish to collect their views also. What do they think about this? Because personally, you are not sure of somebody until you see who they really are with that power. Somebody would really convince you. You've seen like Burkina Faso, for example. They've had very few elections, and most of now their governments were taken through coup. And most of even those who took over as coup leaders did not really manage to take the country where they promised to take them. Power entered their minds and they changed. And today's coup leader, today's Traore, is a different case.
Okay.
And Sankara the late, they are the different cases. They have people at heart. You can have a look at him. He is changing the country, with so many things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite. Yes, you've spoken about the president being impeached. Yeah, for example, if the president is impeached or he resigns, then the deputy takes the position. Yeah, for our case, then Rigathi Gachagua will be the president of Kenya. A yes or no question answer. Do you think he is a better option for Kenya?
No.
Well, thank you so much. Let us leave it to the audience. Thank you so much for listening, and it has been a real educative session. Thank you for the information. We love your audience, and welcome back another day, another time to Desert Maba Productions.